Sometimes the smallest creatures can have the biggest hearts. This is a story about Luna, a tiny, curious kitten who loved to explore her snowy backyard. Luna was no ordinary kitten. Her playful spirit and sharp instincts often led her to unexpected discoveries. One chilly afternoon, while pawing at the snow and chasing her own shadow, Luna paused. Something unusual caught her attention. It was a soft sound, almost like a tiny cry. Curious, she tilted her head, her ears twitching as she listened closely. Far away, in the middle of a snowy patch, was Piko, a baby penguin. Piko looked lost, shivering slightly and chirping faintly as he waddled clumsily across the icy ground. He had wandered far from his family and now faced an overwhelming, cold world all alone. Little did Luna or Piko know, their paths were about to cross in the most extraordinary way. The day was serene, with soft snowflakes falling gently from the sky. Luna, the adventurous kitten, had been wandering the edges of her snowy home, her little paws sinking into the fresh snow with every playful step. The crisp air was quiet, apart from the soft crunching beneath her feet and the occasional whisper of the wind. But then, something unexpected happened. A faint sound broke through the silence. It was faint at first, almost easy to miss. A soft, high-pitched chirp echoed in the distance. Luna stopped in her tracks, her ears perking up. The sound came again, sharper this time, like a cry for help. Luna's wide eyes scanned the landscape, but all she could see were endless waves of white snow and icy patches. Despite her small size, Luna's heart was filled with courage and curiosity. Without hesitation, she started moving toward the sound, her nose twitching as she sniffed the chilly air for any clues. The chirping grew louder, guiding her closer. As Luna rounded a mound of snow, she spotted something moving, a tiny black and white figure struggling in the frost. It was Piko, a baby penguin. He was huddled in a shallow patch of ice, flapping his little wings helplessly as he tried to climb out. His feathers were damp, and his chirps grew more frantic as he slipped with every attempt to move. The ice around him was cracked and uneven, making it impossible for him to find his footing. Luna crouched low, her instincts kicking in. She watched carefully, her head tilting as if trying to figure out what this strange little creature was. For a moment, she hesitated. The penguin was bigger than she was, and the icy terrain ahead looked treacherous even for her nimble paws. But the sound of Piko's distressed chirps was too much for Luna to ignore. She took her first step forward, the snow crunching softly beneath her. Each step brought her closer to the struggling penguin, and each step made the situation clearer. Piko's tiny body trembled from the cold, and his cries were growing weaker. It was clear he couldn't escape on his own. Luna paused just a few feet away, her bright eyes locked on the frightened penguin. She meowed softly as if to say, "I'm here, don't worry." For a moment, the two tiny creatures stared at each other, one filled with fear, the other with determination. But what could a little kitten do? Luna didn't know the answer, but she was determined to try. She moved closer, her paws steady and her movements careful. Little did Piko know, his rescuer was about to defy the odds and prove that even the smallest hearts can make the biggest difference. The snow-covered landscape stretched out endlessly, a silent world of white under a pale gray sky. Luna, the tiny kitten with fur as soft as the snow beneath her paws, roamed this chilly expanse with an air of playful curiosity. Her little nose twitched at the frosty air, and her ears flicked at the soft sound of snowflakes landing around her. But then, out of the stillness, a sound broke through, a faint, almost fragile cry. Luna froze, her ears perking up, her whiskers trembling as she listened. The sound came again, sharper now, carrying a sense of urgency that even a playful kitten like Luna couldn't ignore. It was unlike anything she had heard before, a desperate, high-pitched chirp that seemed to echo across the snow. Luna's emerald eyes scanned her surroundings, but all she could see was a vast expanse of white. The sound, however, pulled her forward, as if urging her to come closer. Step by step, she moved cautiously, her small paws leaving delicate prints in the snow. The cry came again, louder now, tinged with desperation. Whatever it was, it needed help, and Luna was determined to find it. As she approached the source of the sound, the scenery began to change. The soft snow gave way to patches of icy ground, slick and uneven. Luna moved carefully, her claws gripping the ice as she ventured further. Suddenly, through the haze of falling snow, she spotted something, a tiny, dark figure moving weakly against the endless white. Luna crouched low, her instincts taking over. She inched forward, her eyes locked on the strange shape ahead. At first, she couldn't quite make out what it was. It wasn't another kitten or any animal she had seen before, but as she got closer, the figure became clearer. A baby penguin, small and vulnerable, struggling to stand on the icy ground. The penguin's feathers were damp, clinging to his trembling body as he flapped his little wings in vain. His tiny feet slipped repeatedly on the ice, and every movement seemed to drain more of his strength. His chirps, once sharp and piercing, were now softer, as if he was losing the will to call out. Luna paused, her heart racing. The sight of the baby penguin, so helpless and fragile, stirred something deep inside her. She meowed softly, a sound filled with both curiosity and reassurance. The penguin's wide, frightened eyes turned toward her, his little body trembling as he let out another weak chirp. The scene before Luna was heartbreaking. The ice around the penguin was cracked and jagged, forming a treacherous trap that he couldn't escape. A thin layer of frost clung to his tiny wings, and the cold seemed to seep into every feather. Luna knew she had to act, but how could a kitten, so small herself, help in such a dire situation? For a moment, Luna hesitated. The icy ground ahead looked dangerous, even for her. The cold nipped at her paws, and the slippery surface threatened to throw her off balance. But then she looked at the baby penguin again, his trembling body and pleading eyes, and something inside her clicked. She couldn't walk away. Not now. Not when he needed her. With a determined flick of her tail, Luna took a cautious step onto the ice. The cold stung her paws and she nearly slipped, but she steadied herself and pressed on. Each step brought her closer to the penguin, and with every chirp, her resolve grew stronger. The closer she got, the more she could see just how dire the penguin's situation was. The ice beneath him was thin, cracking slightly under his weight as he struggled to move. Luna moved carefully, her every movement deliberate, her instincts guiding her as she approached. Finally, she was within reach of the penguin. He let out a soft chirp, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. Luna crouched down, her nose almost touching him, and let out another gentle meow, as if to say, "Don't worry, I'm here to help." In that moment, the two tiny creatures, so different, yet equally vulnerable, connected in a way that transcended their instincts. Luna knew she had to act quickly, but how? The cold air around them seemed to hold its breath as the little kitten prepared to do the impossible. Luna stood close to the trembling baby penguin, her small body tense with determination. The icy air stung her paws, but she didn't care. All that mattered was helping the helpless creature in front of her. The penguin's faint chirps had grown quieter, and he looked up at her with wide, glassy eyes that seemed to plead for rescue. Luna nudged him gently with her nose, trying to encourage him to move. The penguin flapped his little wings weakly, but his legs were too cold and unsteady to carry him forward. It was clear he couldn't do it alone. Luna glanced around, her sharp eyes scanning the icy ground. She needed to find a way to guide him to safety. With a quick, determined meow, Luna crouched low and used her paw to tap the ice near Piko, as if signaling him to follow her. The penguin chirped softly, watching her with a mix of confusion and trust. Luna moved closer, her fur brushing against his damp feathers, and gave him a gentle push. Slowly, he began to shuffle forward, his tiny steps hesitant but deliberate. The ice beneath them was slippery and uneven, and every movement felt like a challenge. Luna stayed close to the penguin, her tail flicking with focus as she carefully led the way. At one point, Piko slipped, his little body sliding across the frosty ground. Luna reacted instantly, darting forward and nudging him upright with her head. As they made their way across the treacherous ice, the wind began to pick up, carrying a chill that bit through even Luna's thick fur. She pressed on, her paws carefully finding solid patches of ground. Every few steps, she turned to check on the penguin, her soft green eyes filled with encouragement. Piko began to respond to Luna's efforts, finding strength in her determination. His steps became steadier, his chirps a little stronger, as though her bravery was giving him the courage to keep going. Together, they navigated the icy path, Luna leading the way with an unshakable resolve. At last, they reached a patch of firmer ground, where the snow was softer and the ice less threatening. Luna stopped and turned to Piko, who let out a tiny, grateful chirp. The kitten meowed back, her voice carrying a note of triumph. She gently licked the penguin's head, her way of reassuring him that he was safe now. The bond between them was undeniable. Despite their differences, they had worked together to overcome the odds. Luna had done what no one would have expected from a tiny kitten. She had become a hero, driven by pure compassion and a determination to help a friend in need. As Luna and Piko reached the safety of the soft, snow-covered ground, there was a shift in the air, a calmness that replaced the earlier tension. Piko stood beside Luna, his tiny body no longer trembling as much, his chirps now soft and steady. It was as if he knew he was out of danger, thanks to the little kitten who had refused to leave him behind. Luna circled around Piko, her curious green eyes scanning him as if to make sure he was truly okay. She meowed softly, her voice gentle and reassuring, before sitting beside him. For a moment, the two sat quietly in the snow, their breaths visible in the chilly air, their unlikely friendship solidified by the shared experience. Piko looked up at Luna and let out a small, almost cheerful chirp. He flapped his tiny wings in what seemed to be gratitude, and Luna responded with a playful flick of her tail. The bond they had formed in such a short time was undeniable, a connection built on trust and kindness. As the clouds above began to part, a golden ray of sunlight broke through, casting a warm glow over the snowy field. Piko chirped excitedly, turning his gaze toward the horizon. In the distance, faint but unmistakable, the sound of other penguins echoed through the air. Piko's family was near. Luna noticed his excitement and stood up, her little paws crunching in the snow. She gave Piko a gentle nudge, as if to encourage him to go toward the sound. The baby penguin chirped again, louder this time, his voice carrying across the cold landscape. But Piko hesitated. He turned back to Luna, looking at her with wide, grateful eyes. It was as if he didn't want to leave her side, as if he knew how much she had done for him. Luna, sensing his hesitation, meowed softly and nudged him again, her way of telling him it was okay to go. Finally, Piko began to waddle toward the distant sounds of his family, his tiny steps more confident now. Luna followed him for a while, making sure he was safe and on the right path. When they reached a small ridge, they stopped. Below them was a group of penguins, all huddled together. Piko let out an excited chirp and flapped his wings, drawing the attention of the group. One of the adult penguins, likely Piko's parent, waddled forward, letting out a loud call. Piko hurried down the ridge, his little feet moving as fast as they could. He reached the group and was quickly embraced by the larger penguin, who seemed to shelter him with its wings. From her spot on the ridge, Luna watched the reunion unfold. Her tail swayed gently and a quiet purr escaped her as she saw Piko safe and surrounded by his family. She didn't need words to understand what had just happened. She had done her part, and now it was time for Piko to be where he belonged. Before turning to leave, Piko looked back one last time. His bright eyes met Luna's, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. He let out a final chirp, a sound filled with gratitude, and Luna responded with a soft meow. Then, with a flick of her tail, the kitten turned and disappeared into the snowy landscape, leaving behind a story of bravery, kindness, and the most unlikely friendship. Stories like this remind us that kindness knows no boundaries. It doesn't matter how small or different we may be. When we act with courage and compassion, we can make a world of difference, even in the lives of others who seem nothing like us. Luna, the tiny kitten with a heart far bigger than her size, didn't hesitate to help Piko when he needed her the most. And in return, Piko showed us the power of gratitude and trust. Together, they proved that friendship can bloom in the most unexpected ways, even in the middle of a cold, snowy world. This story isn't just about a kitten saving a penguin. It's a reminder that the smallest gestures can have the greatest impact. Whether it's lending a paw, a hand, or a wing, our actions, no matter how small, can create warmth even in the coldest of places. If this heartwarming tale brought a smile to your face or inspired you, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves animals. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. We'll see you in the next video, where we bring you more amazing stories of kindness, courage, and the wonderful connections between us and the animals we share our world with. As the soft golden light of the setting sun bathed the snowy landscape, Luna trotted back toward her cozy home. Her tiny paws made delicate prints in the snow, but her heart felt bigger than ever. Behind her, Piko was safe with his family, their cheerful calls fading gently into the distance. Luna didn't need to stay any longer. She had done what she came to do. For a brief moment, Luna paused and looked back over her shoulder. She could no longer see the penguin family, but she didn't need to. The memory of Piko's final chirp of gratitude echoed in her mind, filling her with a quiet pride. A small purr escaped her as she turned back toward home, her tail flicking lightly in the air. The story of Luna and Piko didn't just end with a rescue, it left an imprint that would last forever. It was a tale of bravery and an unexpected bond that reminded us all that no matter our size or strength, we can always make a difference. And just as Luna carried on, so can we, inspired by her courage to step up when it matters most. The world may be vast, but kindness has a way of bridging even the greatest distances, whether between species or hearts. Thank you for watching this incredible story of compassion and friendship. If it warmed your heart, let us know by giving this video a like and sharing it with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a story as beautiful as this one. As Luna disappeared into the snowy horizon, we're left with a simple truth. Even the smallest among us can create ripples of kindness that change the world. See you in our next video.